The revolution is televised. Jeremiah, Andre, today we are discussing one of the fastest rising brands in independent watchmaking. It's
Hey guys, it's Jeremiah. As you can see, Wei is not with us today. He's on a flight to New York, but we have our new editor-in-chief for Asia, Andre Frois, with us.
Today, we are going to share with you a very special brand that's touted to be one of the fastest rising, most popular independent watch brands in the market right now. It's Baltic. It's a French brand. The parts are assembled in Besançon, France. The name Baltic is tribute to its founder Etienne Malik's father, who comes from northern Poland. They've been around for a few years now, I understand 2017.
Yeah, I think so. I think they started on Kickstarter, but what they have done in the last couple of years is nothing short of amazing. Right? They are offering watches, dive watches, GMTs, even chronographs at a price point that very few watchmakers can match out there, I think.
And this is their first Tricompax Chronograph. This will go down in history as a milestone watch for Baltic. Why? They've never done something like that before. And this is also tribute to the founders of Baltic, their passion for motor racing, I understand.
Yeah, I think Etienne, Paul and Clement, all three of them are huge automotive enthusiasts. I think they all own air-cooled Porsches, so kudos to you guys. And this latest 3-register chronograph that they have done is in collaboration with Peter Auto. If you guys are not car fans out there and you do not know who Patrick Peter is, the founder of Peter Auto, well, he's a legend in the automotive industry. He revived endurance sports car racing in the 90s, I think with BPR Global GT Series that ran from 94 to 96, if I'm not mistaken. And BPR is an acronym for the last names of the three partners. So we have Patrick Peter, Stefan Rattel, and Jürgen Barth. All three of them are legends. Patrick also organizes the Le Mans Classic, the historic motorsport race where
it's a stamina competition and it features the biggest brands in luxury and in motorsport.
It's endurance racing for vintage Le Mans racing cars. You guys probably know the Jaguar D-Types, the Ferrari 250 series. If you are slightly later fans of Le Mans, you'll know the Group C era from the 80s and early 90s. And I've heard that Patrick is also the co-driver with Richard Mille at the Le Mans Classic. So that's a pretty cool fun fact.
It must be daunting. Richard is still racing into his golden years.
Yeah.
I would like to be racing well into my golden years. Well, Baltic is paying tribute to all of these cool historical facts with a throwback chronograph. What better way to look at this retrospectively than a vintage chronograph with all the vintage details? I love this. Guys, again, one of the most exciting independent brands. If Baltic is not on your radar yet, pay attention to Baltic or else. This chronograph has aesthetics that I personally feel come from landmark, groundbreaking watches of the mid-20th century, like your certain Rolexes, your Omegas, like you were saying, the Speedmaster that you own.
Yeah, I'm wearing a vintage Speedmaster. This is my personal watch.
I really like the flat bezels, the flat cases that remind me of the Omega Moon watches and the Speedmasters. Let's take a look at it side by side with your vintage Speedmaster.
Okay, so if we have a look at the Baltic Peter Auto, it comes with a very well-proportioned case at 39.5 millimeters width, 47 millimeter lug length, as well as a 13.5 millimeter thickness. And all of you guys know that the Speedmaster is 42 millimeters, and if you compare that with the Baltic, it still remains incredibly legible. Lug length is probably about the same, as near to makes no difference. Mine's at 48, that's 47. Mine's 14 millimeters in thickness as well, so the Baltic wears incredibly well. If we look at the side and pump pushers as well as the dial, it really recalls early Rolex Daytona vibes.
Yeah, and it's very distinct. It's not modest in its details. The pump pushers are really protruding, and of course the first thing that's going to catch your eye when you look at this watch are the accents, the highlights, more highlights than NBA All-Star Weekend. And of course, if you like the very flat aesthetic of the dial, again, I love it. these little indices protruding just above the dial.
It really recalls the design of, I would say, the Rolex Daytona Paul Newman with this cream, silvery satin finish dial with stick markers and an Arabic numeral at 12. It's a step dial, and you can see concentric circles in the sub-dials as well.
Yep.
And we were talking about how this recalls the design of the Hoya Otavia from the 70s. You can see even bands of color in the 30-minute and 12-hour counters with the corresponding colored hands.
You were talking about the size proportions that are distinctively very different from your vintage Speedmaster. I want to ask you how it feels in your hands in terms of the links that are smaller. Perhaps do they wrap around your wrist more comfortably? The lugs feel more comfortable around your hands?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about this flat link bracelet, this was a very popular design back in the mid-20th century, as you said. Incidentally, my vintage Speedmaster did come on a flat link bracelet, but because it wasn't correct for the reference, I eventually sold it. And that one actually had links that could stretch, were expandable. Yeah, so it could, it wore really well on the wrist. But even though this bracelet doesn't have that, these flat links sit completely flat and flushed and wraps around your wrist incredibly comfortably. And I think a bit of a nod to a more modern construction for the clasp is it has push release buttons instead of one that's a friction fit and you have to pull at it.
Yeah. Something that we haven't talked about yet is its tachymeter. Its tachymeter only measures speeds of up to 200 kilometers per hour. If that's not throwback, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, the racing cars of that era did go
They did not go very
faster
fast.
than that, actually.
So 200 kilometers was very generous, good enough to time everything in the race.
The bezel is made from aluminium, which is the same as my Speedmaster.
Yes.
So if you're a vintage watch nerd, you probably know that aluminium will eventually fade. If you expose it to too much sunlight. So probably this watch is going to age and patina in a way that you guys would like.
So every watch will look unique after a few years?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. I believe only 300 pieces around the world.
Yeah, so it's a very limited watch. We haven't talked about the movement. It's a Swiss movement, a Sellita SW510M.
Yes.
So it's a manual wind. I think Etienne wanted to put in an automatic originally, but not to mess with the dimensions, right?
Yeah.
Eventually went with a manual wind, which keeps the thickness manageable. Incredible power reserve. The winding of the crown feels very, very nice.
Like
and
it?
even though this is cam operated, when you activate the chronograph, somehow it feels like a column wheel. So I'm not too familiar with this Sellita movement, but it feels like a quality piece all around.
When you buy this in the box set, what do you get? I believe you get two stopwatches, two flyback stopwatches with it.
I think it's an incredible value proposition because if you happen to own a vintage car or vintage race car, which you take part in motorsport events like the Mille Miglia or the Le Mans Classic, like we mentioned earlier, you probably want to have those two stopwatches, and you can actually mount them on a plate.
Yeah.
It comes with a plate, and you can mount that into your vintage race car.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All for under $2,000. What else comes with this? Screwdriver and the easily detached bracelet and leather strap.
Oh yeah, it comes with a calf leather strap, guys, and the screwdriver, as Andre said, you can easily undo the links here to adjust the bracelet, reduce it in length. There's just small adjustments that you can make in the clasp as well. There's a very quick release system, 2 push buttons on the inside of the end link.
Yeah,
Right?
seems effortless.
So if you prefer it on the calf leather strap that it comes with, you can easily change that out. Yeah. And the 2 stopwatches have a dial color scheme that's very similar to this. One is a cream dial, one is a black dial, and it has a small minute counter at 12 o'clock.
We've also brought this along from Baltic, which is our limited edition collaboration from last year, 2021, right?
Yeah. This one is only 36.5 millimeters in weight, so slightly smaller than the Peter Auto here. But we were very fortunate and privileged to collaborate with Baltic on this incredible piece. You see, again, the vintage cues that they do so well, just the attention to detail with the sector dial. This is based on their Bicompax format. This went so quickly. And we really want to thank you guys who have supported us by purchasing this. and just resharing it on Instagram now and then, enjoying the watch.
How do you feel Baltic is changing the game in the watchmaking industry right now? For me, these guys are distributing their watches past the middleman straight into retailers around the world. I'm seeing them when I travel to different cities around the world. They're selling straight and they are creating a unique sports watch aesthetic that will collect new fans. They're not really trying to emulate anyone else. They're doing something minimalist, something very clean, yet something very throwback with true tributes to details of old milestone watches. That's how I feel these guys who are running Baltic are going to set their names in stone.
They are collectors themselves. They are making watches for collectors or future collectors. And with their latest and first Tricompax, a 3-register chronograph, I think they've just knocked it out of the park. So Etienne, Paul, Clement, congratulations to you guys. You guys rock. It's an incredible piece. It's launching on August 26, 4 p.m. CET. It's only limited to 300 pieces, so mark your calendars, guys. I think 1,975 euros without tax.
Very little money to pay for
incredible, yeah.
A lot of fun.
Cheers. Take care.